Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, the folks from Nerd Caliber, talk about nerd news that has happened over the past week since our last show last Tuesday. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter as a cosplay photographer on Facebook and Instagram, Burly Adopter on Mastodon, and a few other places, I think. So, we're going to jump right into our topics tonight. It's a moderately full roster, but nothing with any particular depth to it, although there's some things that could have long discussions. I'm the only one here tonight, so we probably won't have very long discussions. But that said, before we do get into it, if you are in the chat on YouTube and you want to voice your opinion about any of the topics we're talking about tonight, or my opinion about any of the topics we're talking about tonight, feel free to do so. We love to see that in the chat. We love to respond real time. And please enjoy yourself. So we're going to get right into our very first topic, which is kind of news. It's like the worst kept secret in Hollywood in the last couple of years. So that is, of course, from The Mandalorian. That is the character Din Djarin, the main character. And the news is that Pedro Pascal revealed in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter that for pretty much all of season 3 at least, he has been doing nothing but voiceover acting for the character. This has been speculated on for quite a while. Particularly in season 3, he did not take his helmet off at all. And so that definitely led to greater speculation because the character has taken his helmet off, despite that being something that is taboo within his particular religious sect of the Mandalorians. But he has revealed that there are two other people who physically play Din Djarin, on the set. Brendan Wayne is an actor that does all of the physical acting in the suit except for the stunts, and that is a stunt actor named Lateef Crowder. So I think it's kind of odd that this has been sort of kept as a secret, and it only came out in this interview, and it was a roundtable interview with a whole bunch of other actors in things that were very popular this past season. So it was just one of those, the reporter happened to ask a question about, working, in the costume, and he sort of just came out and admitted it. Now, obviously, Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder have been credited as physical actors for the character of the Mandalorian before, otherwise their names wouldn't be here in this article. But my guess is most of that credit, at least as far as I recall seeing in any of the first two seasons, may have been as stunt actors, which would make sense. You got to assume that Pedro Pascal isn't doing all of his own stunts inside the suit. Luminous, hello all. I watched the Skull Island trailer. Bring on the mayhem. We'll get to that. That's our last topic. So I think it's a little disingenuous of Disney Plus to not have said that right out of the get-go for however much this was done for season 2, because the way the quote is from Pascal, and he doesn't specify what season this was. He says, there was an extended amount of experimentation being in the suit for a lot of it, and frankly, my body wasn't up for the task as far as like the 4 months of it, and I assume that means either 4 months of shooting. But I was in it. I was in it a significant amount, an elastic amount. In the Hollywood Reporter article, they indicate that he tugs at his neck like the collar. But now we figured it out, which is super cool, and amazingly, it gave me the opportunity to be able to go and do something else. So this obviously is part of, I'm guessing, what his deal was with Disney Plus, saying, hey, I got to do this, Last of Us live-action adaptation, in which I am physically have to be there and act all the time. What can we do about me not being in the suit? And they apparently agreed and thought it was fine. And that's great. It's great. I think they did an excellent job. I don't have a problem with the physical portrayal of the Mandalorian, um, or Pedro Pascal's voice acting for the Mandalorian. I have a problem with the writing of season 3, particularly. It's just awful. Um, but you know, honestly, I have to say Pascal's delivery of the dialogue that they give him. Um, I don't know whether it's a matter of not actually being on set and hearing the stuff that was being done around him. I'm assuming they're playing the audio to him while he's doing his voiceover. It's just, and again, part of it is the dialogue is just terrible. Now, season 1, he spoke stiffly but believably and realistically. Season 2, it changed a little bit and became clearly more influenced by the way they were writing the dialogue out of the Book of Boba Fett, which is terrible. And then season 3, it was Book of Boba Fett dialogue. It was just the most stilted, unbelievable. Even an actor as good as Pedro Pascal, who can, play a tortured, violent survivor of an apocalypse in The Last of Us, and a apparently pansexual, hedonistic, amazingly competent fighter in Game of Thrones, and all sorts of things in between. Is having a hard time delivering that dialogue, along with everybody else in season 3. So, but anyway. This is not full fat spoiler chat about season 3 of The Mandalorian, so I'm not going to get any further into that. Like I said, everybody sort of figured this out quite a while ago, but nobody would confirm it. Pascal has finally confirmed it. And good for this article in Collider in naming the 2 people who are in the suit and actually doing the physical acting. And at least they're not doing what they did with James Earl Jones and David Prowse in the first few years after the first Star Wars movie, Episode 4, A New Hope, okay, whatever, came out. And that Prowse was absolutely given no credit whatsoever, despite the fact that he acted the whole thing as believing he was going to be both the physical actor and the voice. He did all the dialogue, acting with the other actors. And then James Earl Jones came in, did the voiceover, and Prowse got no credit for at least a couple of years. They haven't done that here. Now, they didn't give these guys proper credit until just now. Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder. But now they finally have. So, they learned a little bit there at Disney. Anyway, moving on to our next topic. It is the exclusive rumor, or report, I guess you could say, coming out from Deadline, that Matt Berry, most famous for, obviously, this character Laszlo in What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series version, is in talks to star opposite Jason Momoa in the movie version, the live-action movie version of Minecraft. We talked about that, I think, God, it was more a year ago maybe, that they announced that the movie was being made and that Momoa was starring in it, and his production company was one of the producers on it. I have zero interest in this whatsoever. I'm a little bit more interested now that Matt Berry is in it. Matt Berry is really, really funny in everything he's done. He's also a pretty serious actor. Apparently one of the first things he got really well known for was, I'm assuming, the latest iteration of the BBC adaptation of Great Expectations. But he was also in the Cruella. And one of those roles where you kind of look at him and go, I know that, oh, it's Matt Berry. Completely different from anything I've seen him in before. He's really good. The only other thing that gets me remotely interested in this is the fact that it's supposedly being directed by Jared Hess, who did Napoleon Dynamite. And if it has Napoleon Dynamite energy with Jason Momoa and Matt Berry, that could be really funny. But it also, it could be Pixels. And I'm leaning more towards this is probably going to be Pixels. Pixels had a pretty funny cast too, in case you don't remember. So, yeah, we'll have to see. April 4th, 2025. So quite a bit of time before this thing actually hits, assuming it does hit. All of this stuff could fall apart, and Matt Berry may not actually have been, or may not be cast in it. They say in this that he's in talks, and that hasn't even been confirmed. So, if he is, my interest meter goes from 0 to it's gone from 0 to maybe 2 with Jared Hess, and it might go to 3 or 4 with Matt Berry, and that's it. So, if that's your jam, if you are an absolute Matt Berry fanatic, as some of our team members are, or a Jason Momoa fanatic, and maybe a huge Minecraft player, and are really excited to see a live action adaptation of Minecraft, keep paying attention. We will cover more news. I'm just not going to be one to go review it. All right, moving on to much better casting news and confirmed casting news. And sort of speaking of Pedro Pascal's character in Game of Thrones, this is one of his lovers, Ilaria Sands, played by Indira Varma, the wonderful Indira Varma, who I absolutely fell in love with in the first thing I saw her in, which was Rome on HBO. And the news is that she is going to be coming back to the Doctor Who franchise, the Doctor Who universe, to play a new character in the upcoming season, playing, I think, opposite Ncuti Gatwa, who's going to be the new Doctor. The character is called the Duchess, and that's really the only thing that they will say about it. And it is clearly not the character she played in Russell Davies, who is the returning showrunner from, when it was first rebooted with the Ninth Doctor. The spin-off Torchwood, she played a character called Susie Costello in that series. And I still love the fact that Torchwood is actually just an anagram for Doctor Who. So it's a different character, apparently, completely, but it's also going to be, it seems, an ongoing character. And as she says, I love playing Susie Costello for Russell T Davies in Torchwood, so I am thrilled to be entering this world again. I look forward to creating interplanetary mischief with, and she says him, meaning Ncuti Gatwa. So I think this is great. I think the casting that they've done for this is wonderful. I mean, they've brought back in obviously smaller roles, but David Tennant, Catherine Tate. They've added Jinx Monsoon from RuPaul's Drag Race, Jonathan Groff from Glee. I like it. I'm really looking forward to what this new, reinvigorated with the original guy who rebooted the whole thing, is going to be like. And the fact that they've added Indira Varma, it's just a thrill. Well, let's see. What else? They mentioned, yeah, she was in the most recent thing you probably would have seen her in she was in Obi-Wan Kenobi for a few episodes. Very good in that. Again, not the best show Disney Plus has done in the Star Wars universe, but she was solid in it. And if you go back a ways, she was a wonderful character in the second season of the deeply unappreciated NBC series Human Target, based on a DC comic book. That's a great series. Go check it out. She's fantastic in it. And just a wonderful supporting cast. Chi McBride, Jackie Earle Haley, just superb. Anyway, Indira Varma, and I believe that we get to see Ncuti Gatwa in the Christmas specials coming up before the actual next season starts next year. So check it out. I don't know if the Duchess is going to appear in those. I don't think so. I would assume that they're saving most of these characters for appearing in the actual season, not the end of the year or Christmas specials. All right, moving on to our next topic tonight is these are the two lead young actors for the two lead young characters in the upcoming live action How to Train Your Dragon adaptation that we talked about just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they literally just announced it was happening, and they've already cast Mason. I'm going to pronounce his name as Thames, like the river. I looked up YouTube trying to get somebody to actually say his last name. I'm going with Thames. It could be Thames. Don't know. Mason Thames and Nico Parker. So Thames, or Mason, I'm going to call him Mason, was most recently in the very well received and pretty much of a hit, The Black Phone horror movie. He played one of the two young lead siblings. And you probably recognize Nico Parker right there as Pedro Pascal's daughter in The Last of Us. So they are both off two really hot hit properties of this, past year. And it looks like they've got a really good casting there. I'm still iffy on the whole thing. I'm not really sure, where they're going to take it. I mean, obviously, it's going to be live action and CG dragons. Greg, why do a live action? I think we talked about that when we, or at least we all had that sort of opinion when we talked about the fact that they were doing it. Money, obviously, but I honestly, I don't know why, other than money. Universal may be getting deeply into the, hey, it's working for Disney. Let's make it work for us. You remember how well that worked out when they tried to create a integrated cinematic universe like Marvel has with their horror and monster universe, the dark universe. Didn't work out at all. But then again, they cast all these really huge names before they even had properties for them to be in. And then the first really big one with The Mummy with Tom Cruise tanked hard. And that was it. Pretty much the whole universe fell apart. So they could very well do the same sort of thing here with, with trying to emulate Disney and its taking of animated properties and turning them into live action, and fail just as hard as they did with the Dark Universe. But these are both really good kid actors. Who knows, who else they get to play the other characters. So it could happen. Because the live action Popeye did so well. Well, now you're going way back. You're also going back to, remember, Popeye was made by Robert Altman. You had a indie, super improvisational, talky director, who would go on to make some, amazing movies, or had made some amazing movies, obviously, up to that point. Nashville, and so on, making a Robin Williams Popeye movie. So it's still one of those things that's worth watching for anybody who hasn't seen it, just because it's just so bizarre. It's just the weirdest, it's like if David Lynch made Tom and Jerry. It's that bizarre. And for that reason, it's worth watching. It's one of these things that will never happen again. But yeah, Popeye was not a hit and did not go well. Clearly, Disney has a much better track record of making hits out of their adaptations, whether they're that critically well received or not. So we'll have to see whether or not Universal does actually take a lesson on how to do this. Again, they've demonstrated that they're really, really bad at taking those kind of lessons. but who knows? This could be a completely different group of people behind the scenes trying to get this to happen. So good luck to them, I guess. Oh yeah, Mason is next going to be starring opposite Mel Gibson in a movie called The Boys of Summer. Oh, poor kid. All right. Let's see if there's anything else here based on plot. Yeah, it doesn't say anything else about that. Somebody named Dean DeBlois is directing the movie. It's going to happen March 14th of 2025. So spring of 2025 is pretty much what we're talking about stuff, at this point. The last two topics anyway. But it doesn't look like anybody that I can see here who is involved in it is anybody that would make me feel any better about this, other than the solid casting of the two kids. So there you go, folks. Pay attention and get ready for March 2025 if you really want to see this thing. All right, moving on to our next, our first trailer, and I really like this. This is the thing that everybody's sharing around from the trailer for season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And it has a crossover with the animated series Star Trek Lower Decks. And here are the voice actors of the two characters, Mariner and Boimler, playing the live action characters of Mariner and Boimler in what is apparently going to be a crossover episode in which Mariner and Boimler actually show up on the Enterprise. I think it's great. First off, I'm up and down on Lower Decks. I think the humor can be really good. I think it's also at times really, it misses a lot. I really like the voice work, in part because I think Tawny Newsome is fantastic as Mariner, and Jack Quaid is just wonderful as Boimler. And the character designs that they did for the animation look so much like them that it was so easy for them to just become the physical, actual live action versions of them, because the character designs are based entirely on them. I also, and this is just a nerd thing, I really like the live action look of the Lower Deck uniforms. I've always liked the Lower Deck uniforms design anyway, but I think these are great. Now, I know it wouldn't be accurate or traditional for the Enterprise prior to Kirk taking over to change out of the sort of, gold, blue, or red tunic and black tight trousers look that they've updated, but still has the classic original series look in Strange New Worlds. But I think it would be great to at least have them have some more supporting characters at different places they go, have this uniform design. I really like it. I think it's really sharp. So June or July, coming right up anyway, coming up this summer, season 2 of Strange New Worlds. It is June 17th. So a little more than 2 weeks. They also show an awful lot of things. It's a fairly quick trailer. Like fast cuts. They cut through a bunch of scenes. The crush that Nurse Chapel has on Spock advances quite a bit. Apparently, much to Spock's discomfort. Ortega gets a lot more time, at least in this trailer, which I think is great. They don't show anything about Rebecca Romaine's number 1, and they give a spoiler here if you haven't watched all of season 1, so I won't say it. There's a legitimate reason by the end of season 1 why she may not be in a lot of the teaser for season 2. It's Rebecca Romaine. She's, a major part of the cast. She's definitely going to be in season 2, but there's a legitimate reason, storytelling reason, why they're holding off on showing any of her in season 2. And I think that's great. I'm looking forward to this. I thought season 1 was really solid. As everybody has said, it is the closest thing to the tone of the original series, without being quite so cheesy as anything that has been done since the original series. So if you're at all a fan of Star Trek, and particularly of the original series, you will really like this. If you have not seen Strange New Worlds yet, I recommend checking it out. I'd recommend checking it out if you're a Star Trek fan of any kind. I mean, I really like Discovery for its completely different tone. But then again, I really liked Voyager for its different tone. Deep Space Nine, all of them. They're all thematically and tonally different series. And I think that's fine. They don't all have to be the original series. This is pretty darn close. All right, so June 17, folks. Got to renew my Paramount Plus subscription. All right. All right. Here's the one that could be a really deep topic if we had a few other people on. Since we don't, I'm going to go through it fairly quickly, but CBR had this article. This is somebody that I took a photo of at Wicked Comic Con who was clearly in what I would describe as a furry costume. I'm putting it that way because I do not know if this cosplayer identifies as a furry. And I don't want to categorize them in that way if that's not, the way they view themselves. Furries are a particular, very specific subset of costuming and cosplay. The news is that Megaplex, which is a furry convention in Orlando coming up in September, has changed its policies to be an 18-plus only convention because of recent laws passed by and signed into law by the DeSantis administration, particularly SB 1438, or the Protection of Children Act. So this prohibits the admission of children to any event that's called, quote, an adult live performance, which is defined as a presentation that depicts or simulates nudity, sexual conduct, or specific sexual activities. And if you allow anybody into that, is punishable by a year of prison time and or $1,000 fine. Now, the speculation in this article is that this may very well affect other nerd conventions, particularly things like anime conventions in Florida. I don't know that that's true. I think the reason why the furry convention, why Megaplex did this, is because simulated sexual activity is often a big part of the furry convention lifestyle. There's a term for it. Just lost it. Can't think of it. Anyway, yiffing or something like. Anyway, so that if they didn't want to make absolutely sure that that is not a thing, then they had to make it an 18-plus convention. I don't know that the same thing applies to anything like an anime convention. Except the 18-plus panels. So if you get hentai panels, if you get, the live, on stage, improvisational dubbing of, hentai, that's a big thing at anime cons. Yeah, it's entirely possible that that could be seen as, again, to quote the law, quote, a presentation that depicts or simulates nudity, sexual conduct, or specific sexual activities. And so maybe anime conventions would have to, thank you, Greg, yiffing. It is yiffing. So that would have to be eliminated from any anime convention or the anime convention would have to be an 18 plus if it was in Florida, like Holiday Matsuri, which is huge in Florida, all over the country actually, but it's huge. Would Holiday Matsuri decide to not have 18 plus panels? Would that have a negative impact on their attendance? There's all sorts of questions involved here. Obviously, we don't have the answer until any of the anime conventions in Florida, or frankly, any convention, although 18 plus panels are less of a thing at like comic book conventions. That's really it's not only, but it's very much something that you expect to see at anime conventions. And certainly at furry conventions. So, if nothing else, it just says, once again, stay out of Florida. Don't go to Florida. Don't vacation in Florida. Don't give the state any of your tourism dollars. It's not worth it. Until the Christian fundamentalist Sharia law version of that corner of the United States stops being a thing, don't do it. Just don't go there. Don't do, and I hate to say that for cons like MegaCon, which, we're big supporters of. We are, involved in doing photography support officially for MegaCon as part of a Fan Expo deal. I'm not going to stop us from doing that, obviously, but, I would advise any of our friends who are thinking about going to Florida for really any reason to seriously think twice about it. Particularly if you are anything other than cis white male. And I know there are a lot of people, cis white female, sure. Any cultural environment that makes its priority the promulgation of cis white male to the exclusion of anything else eventually is going to get around to excluding cis white females as well, and anything they may want. So, well, they kind of already have with their abortion bans and other things. Anyway, it's enough ranting about Florida. The state doesn't suck. The state's beautiful. A lot of the people in it are really horrible. Wouldn't mind them getting eaten by alligators. Just saying. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on this if anything else comes up about this with any other conventions in Florida and how they react to this law. So stay tuned. But, it ain't going to be good. All right, moving on to our very last topic. Luminous, you've been waiting for this for a long time. This is, of course, a screen grab from the teaser trailer that Netflix put out for the series Skull Island. Now, first, I had no idea about this other than I think, actually, Luminous mentioned that it was something that was happening in a previous show, maybe a month and a half ago. So we now know this is going to happen June 22nd. It is a series that, according to this description and Deadline, takes viewers on a thrilling adventure. Deadline, let me get my face back in here. Deadline, stop using marketing terms for describing stuff that you're covering. Either put it in quotes that's coming directly from their marketing material, or stop using things like on a thrilling adventure. Just some advice. As a group of kind-hearted explorers, again, there's no quotes around this. All right. As a group of kind-hearted explorers rescues Annie, who is played by, voice acted by Mae Whitman from Family Guy, unaware that their act of heroism will lead them to the treacherous Skull Island, home to bizarre creatures and terrifying monsters, including the mighty Titan himself, Kong. Reads like it's taken right from their marketing material, and you didn't put any quotes around it. Sorry. It's the editor and me getting pissed off about this. What I'm not pissed off about is the trailer. It actually looks pretty good. I don't know many of the actors, the voice actors, except for, of course, Benjamin Bratt, the fantastic Benjamin Bratt, who is playing Cap. I'm assuming the captain of the ship. And Betty Gilpin, most recently in the bizarre Mrs. Davis, who's playing a character named Irene. But the leads are the aforementioned Whitman and Nicholas Cantu, who the only credit they give is to Dragons Rescue Riders, Heroes of the Sky. Never heard of it. Who is going to be playing the protagonist of the series, Charlie. And then Darren Barnett from something called Never Have I Ever, who's going to be playing a character named Mike. The animation is done by Powerhouse Animation, which did the animation for Castlevania, and which was fantastic, both in animation and writing. It was a great series. Luminous, the writer and showrunner, made the movie Love and Monsters, which was a good movie. Yes, that was actually really solid. And also, so this guy, Brian Duffield, is the creator or the writer of the series and the executive producer. So essentially the showrunner, although for some reason they don't call him that, who also was involved in some fashion with Cocaine Bear. So Cocaine Bear and Love and Monsters, that's a good track record. You know, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the animation studio Powerhouse, which did that and did the terrible, terrible Blood of Zeus. But the animation was the only good thing about that series, that Netflix series Blood of Zeus. It was the story and the acting that was just god-awful. But the animation was really impressive. And the character designs, the designs of their Titans, as in actual Greek mythology Titans, was wildly innovative, really interesting. So, and then with Castlevania, of course, as seasons went on and on, their fight animation just got crazier and crazier, and it was really good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. The animation seems a little bit simpler in Skull Island than in either of those two previous things that they've worked on, Castlevania and Blood of Zeus. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be less good just because, you know, the lines look a little bit cleaner or simpler. So, yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to this. June 22nd. So don't have to wait that long. June and July are going to be really, really busy months for streaming. There's so many, you know, What We Do in the Shadows comes back in July. Where we were talking about Matt Berry in a previous segment. There's just so much quality stuff. It's not nerdy, but I am absolutely going to have to renew my Hulu subscription because Justified, the City Primeval drops in July. You know, it's just going to be a fantastic summer of streaming content. This is right up your alley, so I would make sense with this observation. Luminous, no sign of any Skull Island toys yet. I'm curious if anyone will make them. It's Netflix. I don't know that Netflix has done a ton of toy tie-ins with any of their stuff, have they? I don't recall. Like, did they do any toy tie-ins with the Godzilla CG movie trilogy series that came out a few years back? You certainly would know. That's true. Stranger Things does have toys, but then again, Stranger Things is also their biggest hit. Excuse me. So, as far as well, specifically monster stuff, did they do anything Luminous with the Godzilla Planet of Monsters, Monster Planet, whatever it was called, that trilogy of movies? I don't recall seeing anything from that. Oh, that's not true. I think I have seen a Mechagodzilla, their version of Mechagodzilla from that. So I guess they do have toy tie-ins, and they probably will have toy tie-ins with this. maybe they're waiting to see how popular this turns out to be. You know, um, Lumina says Bandai released some Godzilla anime in Japan. Um, if I'm trying to think of the name of it. If that was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that was a really solid. So it was a really interesting, sort of bizarre time travel alternate universe story that happened to be wrapped around a Godzilla story, or have a Godzilla setting as why you would have this sort of story. It was really good. I would recommend it. It's a solid anime. Very well written. Gets a little out there by the end with some of the sort of metaphysical alternate reality stuff. Singular Point. Godzilla Singular Point. Got a few toys in the US from Playmates Toys. If you haven't seen it, Luminous, watch it. I think you would like it. It's definitely not in anything that could be considered, standard universe Godzilla canon, but it's really creative and very well written, very well acted. Anyway, June 22nd, we'll get to see Skull Island. Sadly, no Tom Hiddleston in this. No Brie Larson, no John C. Reilly. But I'm hoping it's just as good. Anyway, that's it, folks. That's our show. Again, not entirely sure when our next convention will be. I do know we will have somebody at Colossal Con. Mo will be there. Mo Knows Design. Look him up on Facebook and Instagram. Fun cosplayer, smart guy. He was in our roundtable discussion about generative AI that we did. It's up on YouTube here that we did a while ago. But he'll be there covering Colossal Con for us. Beyond that, I'm not really sure. Still waiting on Kineticon to get their press application issue solved. If they will, before I can say for sure whether we'll be at Kineticon. Then the next thing I can say absolutely for sure is Fan Expo Boston in August. And then Pop Cult Anime Con and so on. But we'll certainly be at other things in between. Maybe PortCon Maine, there's a whole bunch of things that are happening. So if you're going out to those conventions, do please stay safe. A cosplayer friend of mine who is very much in the music scene and the EDM, electronic dance, EDC, electronic dance concerts. Anyway, the big outdoor electronic dance festivals and so on, performed in 2 music festivals and went to a couple of electronic dance festivals in, I think, the space of 2 weeks. Wore a mask through the entire thing. Except when they were performing, of course. And did not come down with COVID, unlike, according to a report, dozens of her friends that were at those events. Just saying, wear the mask. If you're in an event where you're elbow to elbow with people, particularly if there's any sort of strenuous activity and so they're breathing hard, which with cosplayers, even if you're just in cosplay, that can be a thing. Stay safe, wear a mask. Do the smart thing. And with that said, everybody enjoy. Oh, also another safe thing, and I don't know if this applies to anybody other than those of us here in New England. There are forest fires that are happening in Nova Scotia, and the prevailing winds are blowing not just smoke, but because it's close enough to it, or to us in New England here, particularly unhealthy airborne particulates. And there is a health advisory against breathing, doing strenuous activity outside, at least throughout the remainder of this day. So, keep that in mind as well. So please do stay safe. If you're continuing to enjoy any outdoor activity in this, beautiful weather that we're having now, particularly here in New England and particularly along the coast, please stay safe. And people in Nova Scotia, please stay safe. Let's hope you get those fires under control. Nova Scotia or Newfoundland? Anyway, maritime province of some sort in Canada. So, that said, we will, as I just took another deep breath of wood smoke here, we will see you at an upcoming convention and or next week's show. Stay safe. Good night.